Life is made up of a series of events that, taken individually, seem small and insignificant. But sometimes, a simple gesture, apparently unimportant, can trigger a chain of events that changes everything. This is the story of Giulia, a woman like many others, whose life was completely transformed by a gesture that no one could have ever predicted. Get ready to discover a story that will keep you on the edge of your seat, culminating in an ending that will leave you speechless. Follow us on this journey and discover how a simple gesture changed Giulia's life forever, and why you won't be able to believe the ending. Giulia was a 35-year-old woman with a simple and orderly life. She lived in a small apartment in the city, worked as an employee in a service company, and led a quiet life, made up of consolidated habits and days that seemed to flow the same. There was nothing extraordinary in her life, nothing that distinguished her from that of millions of other people. But Giulia didn't complain. She was a reserved person who appreciated the stability and security of her routine. Her days always started the same way: a cup of coffee, a quick read of the news, then off to the office. There, the hours passed between paperwork, emails, and a little chat with colleagues during breaks. In the evening, Giulia would come home, prepare a simple dinner, and relax in front of the TV or with a good book. That routine, which for many might seem monotonous, for her represented a safe haven, a balance that she had never thought of changing. Despite the tranquility of her life, however, there was a part of Giulia that felt incomplete, as if something was missing. Sometimes she wondered if she was destined for something more, if her life had a deeper meaning that she had not yet been able to discover. But those thoughts were quickly put aside, suffocated by the demands of everyday life and the fear of leaving her comfort zone. But one day, without warning, a small gesture, a seemingly insignificant act of kindness, would take Giulia's life down a completely new path. It was a Friday night like any other. Giulia, tired after a long week of work, was walking home, enjoying the cool of the evening and the hustle and bustle of the city. As he was crossing a busy street, he noticed something that caught his attention. On a sidewalk, right in front of a small grocery store, there was an elderly man who seemed to be in trouble. His hands were shaking, and he was struggling to pick up some grocery bags that had fallen to the ground. Giulia stopped for a moment, watching the scene. She could have continued on her way, like many other passersby, lost in their lives, but something inside her pushed her to act. Without thinking twice, she approached the man and bent down to help him pick up the bags. With a kind smile, she handed them to him, and the man thanked her with an expression of sincere gratitude. "Thank you, miss," the man said in a trembling voice. "I don't know what I would have done without your help." Giulia smiled and replied that it was nothing, just a small gesture. The man looked into her eyes, and for a moment, Giulia felt a strange connection with him, as if there was something deeper in that simple meeting. But she didn't think about it too much. After making sure the man was okay, she wished him a good evening and continued on her way, without even imagining that this gesture would trigger a chain of events that would change her life forever. Giulia went home, like every night, and went back to her routine. But that night, something was different. She felt strange, as if that meeting had moved something inside her. She couldn't stop thinking about that old man, his look of gratitude, and the feeling she had felt while helping him. It was just a small gesture, an act of kindness that anyone could have done. Yet she felt that there was something more, something she still couldn't explain. The next day, Giulia woke up with a strange feeling of anticipation. She didn't know what to expect, but she felt that something important was about to happen. The day passed as usual, between work and the usual activities, but that feeling didn't leave her. And then, in the late afternoon, as she was about to go home, Giulia's phone rang. It was an unexpected call. On the other end of the line, a polite and professional voice introduced himself as a lawyer, saying he had to speak to her urgently about a matter of great importance. Giulia, surprised and confused, agreed to meet him that same evening. She didn't know what it was about, and the idea of a meeting with a lawyer made her nervous, but something inside her pushed her to accept. When she arrived at the office, the lawyer greeted her with a warm smile and showed her to a seat. Without much preamble, he explained the reason for the call. The elderly man Giulia had helped the day before, named John, had died a few hours after that meeting. John, the lawyer revealed to her, was a very rich man, but he had no direct heirs and lived a very solitary life. Giulia listened in disbelief as the lawyer continued to speak. John had left a will, and in the will he had expressed the desire to leave a substantial portion of his inheritance to the kind lady who had helped him with the shopping. Giulia could not believe what she was hearing. It couldn't be true. A simple gesture, an act of kindness that had cost her nothing, had changed her life in a way she could never have imagined. The lawyer handed her the documents that confirmed everything: a considerable sum of money, an apartment in the city center, and a small property outside the city that John owned. It was all Giulia's time. The lawyer explained to her that John had spent most of his life alone, and that this small act of kindness had deeply affected him. He had decided to repay that kindness in any way he could. Giulia left the lawyer's office in a state of shock. She walked through the streets of the city, trying to put together the pieces of what had just happened. She couldn't believe that her life had changed so radically in just one day, thanks to a gesture that she hadn't even considered important. In the days that followed, Giulia began to reflect deeply on what had happened. Her life, which until recently had been so calm and predictable, had been turned upside down in a way she could never have imagined. But instead of being overwhelmed by the new possibilities that this unexpected fortune offered her, Giulia found herself thinking about the deeper meaning of that gesture and the lesson she could draw from it. She realized that the wealth she had received was not only a blessing, but also a responsibility. She felt that she could not simply accept that inheritance and continue her life as if nothing had changed. She had to do something meaningful, something that would honor John's gesture and that could have a positive impact on other people. Giulia decided to use her new wealth to make a difference in the lives of others. She began researching charities and projects she could support, trying to understand where her contribution could be most useful. But as she pondered all these possibilities, she realized that there was something she wanted to do first: meet the people who had known John and learn more about his life. Despite the loneliness that seemed to have characterized John's life in recent years, Giulia discovered that the man had left a profound mark on many people. She spoke with the neighbors, with the few friends that John had kept, and discovered that he had been a kind and generous man, always ready to help those in need, even if he rarely asked for anything for himself. This discovery strengthened Giulia's determination to honor John's memory in a meaningful way. After weeks of reflection, Giulia made a decision that would give her life a new purpose. She decided to transform the apartment she had inherited into a shelter for people in need, a place where anyone who found themselves in a difficult moment could find support, a hot meal, and above all, a helping hand. She wanted to create a place where kindness and humanity could thrive, a place that reflected the values that John had embodied. The shelter's inauguration was a success. Dozens of people attended, offering their support and sharing stories of hope and rebirth. Giulia, who had once been a reserved and shy woman, found herself at the center of a project that was already making a difference in the lives of many people. The simple gesture she had made weeks earlier had turned into something extraordinary, something that was touching lives and creating a lasting impact in the community. The shelter became a symbol of hope, a place where people could find the strength to start over, thanks to the kindness and solidarity of those who, like Giulia, believed in the power of good. Every day, Giulia saw the positive consequences of her initial gesture reflected in the lives of the people she met. And every day, she thanked John for giving her the opportunity to discover a new purpose in life.
Her once ordinary and predictable life had become a journey of discovery, growth, and fulfillment. And it had all started with a simple gesture, an act of kindness that no one could have predicted would have such a profound impact. Giulia's story teaches us that every gesture, no matter how small it may seem, has the power to change people's lives in ways we cannot imagine. What might seem like an insignificant act of kindness can trigger a chain of events that transforms not only the lives of those who receive the kindness, but also those who offer it. Thank you for following this story with us. If it inspired you, don't forget to leave a like, share the video, and subscribe to our channel for more stories of hope and change. And remember, a simple gesture can make a difference. Never stop believing in the power of kindness. Never stop believing that small actions can have big consequences. One small gesture can change the world, even if it is only for one person at a time.